Outgrowing nice guy traits is not just about saving your marriage. It's not just about not being a people pleaser. It's actually one of the strongest and most powerful things you can ever do in your life. You're listening to the Be Better podcast. I'm Harrison Orr, and after being a reactive nice guy who almost destroyed his marriage, I've now evolved out of those nice guy traits, and I now help other men to do the same so that they can live in a marriage that they absolutely fucking love. The problem I see with a lot of people talking about nice guy traits, nice guy syndrome, is, first of all, that it's just this thing that you just never get over, right? It's this lifelong sentence that you just manage, right? Even Dr. Robert Glover, the guy who created the term, did all that research, all that work, and even he says he'll forever be a recovering nice guy, which I fundamentally fucking reject. Because I believe that being a nice guy is not one label, right? It's a collection of protective parts. And when we see it as such, then we can break it down and we can actually work with each individual one. Because when you say like, oh, I'm a nice guy, what do I do about that? Oh, well, why are you a nice guy? Well, you're a nice guy because of these traits or because this thing happened in your childhood. Okay, but what do I do about it? And then so the common thought process for a lot of men is then, well, if I'm a nice guy because I say yes too often, well, I'll start saying no. If I'm a nice guy because I don't state my needs, because I don't set boundaries, because I let people walk all over me, then I'll just go and do the opposite, right? Which makes logical sense. But when it's still coming from a reactive nice guy energy, it won't land the same way. And I think this is why so many people have this hesitancy or this resistance to masculinity, to evolving some of these traits, because they think like, oh, well, the opposite of being a people pleaser, then you've got to be an asshole. Like the opposite of a nice guy is, the typical jerk type stereotype. And that if you set boundaries, then you push people away and you make people feel like shit and you're just this arrogant, self-centered asshole and like all these nasty things. And if you've had those viewpoints before, like I definitely used to as well, but if someone projects that onto you as you're making these changes, recognize that that's literally all it is a projection. It's a projection of something that they have experienced in their life and they have associated with that label or with that trait, or they have taken the extreme opposite viewpoint of the trait, right? Like, sure, if you want to stop being a people pleaser, then yeah, you're going to say no. Like, yeah, you're going to upset some people because you've realized that people only liked you because you said yes and did what they wanted you to. So they really used you. They didn't actually like you. But taking it to its extreme, sure, you can be an asshole about it. And some people might label you as an asshole for sure. But recognize that just because you say no to people, just because you put yourself first, they are allowed to see you as an asshole. You will be to them, but that doesn't make you one. Because they might think that it's personal. They might take it offensively. They might get upset by that because they're used to, like, what do you mean? You're the guy who always says yes. You're the guy who bends over backwards. You're the guy that always, works overtime, always does the things, always, puts everybody else first. What do you mean no? Because now it's inconvenient for them. And so it's much easier for them to say, oh, he's lazy, he's an asshole, he's this, because now they have to pick up the slack because you've set a boundary, you've said no. The fundamental difference in someone who is a nice guy versus someone who is evolved out of the nice guy traits is their order of respect. And by extension, I would even say value and love. As a nice guy, They put everybody else's opinion of them, how much they respect them, how much they like them, how much they love them, how much they value them. They put everybody else's viewpoints on all of those things above their own. So they will put themselves dead last about how they feel about themselves. But as long as the clients still respect them, as long as, their wife still loves them, and sleeps with them, as long as these other people tell them that they're good, that they're okay, that they're deserving, that they're valuable, that they're all these things, then they get their needs met. But it often comes at the sacrifice of their own self-respect and self-love because they don't have any for themselves. That's why they externalize it to other people. Which, when you look at a lot of the nice guy traits, is often, especially the people-pleasing one, is where it stems from. At some point in their childhood, a part of them learned that you are not good enough as your own. You're only valuable when you do what mum and dad ask you to. You're only valuable when you help out around the house. You're only valuable. We only like you. We only give you attention. You only get the positive reinforcements when you're not a moment's bother. You listen and do what you're told. You shut up. You say yes. Maybe you said no once and you got punished for it. Moments like that create this story in their mind that, oh, if I say no, people aren't going to like me. If I'm an inconvenience, if I'm not doing things for other people, then I have no inherent value. And left unchecked, that plays out into adulthood and then into marriage. And then one of the heaviest weights that we can give our partner is the responsibility of telling us that we're okay. That we don't believe we are enough as we are, so we need them to say that you are enough, that you are loved, that you are worthy, that you are accepted and liked. And so many men go down the route of trying to achieve that through the money that they make, through the house, the lifestyle, the holidays, the cars that they buy for their wife and their kids and everybody else, because they don't feel like they're enough on their own. And oftentimes what happens is it becomes a projection. They think that other people only like them for what they do for them because that's the value they have placed on themselves. They think that they are only valuable because of the money they make, because of the things that they provide for their family, because of all the things that they do for their family, not because of who they are. Because if they were to actually look in the mirror, maybe they wouldn't like what they saw. Maybe they would find more reasons not to like them, not to love themselves, than the opposite. And so the way that we expect other people to treat us and to see us is a mirror of how we see ourselves. I literally had this conversation with a client yesterday, and he had this inner critic who thought everyone was going to judge him. He's like, oh, well, I can't say I'm good at something because if I'm not good, then they're going to judge me, and people are going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to think that I'm stupid, and all these things. I said, amazing, man. Okay, so you think that they are thinking that of you, right? How much of that do you think about yourself already? And how much do you think that way about other people as well? Okay, so it's not really that you have proof of other people thinking that or believing that. It's that that's how you feel about yourself, and that's how you view other people. So it would make perfect sense that you would expect other people to see you in that same light. Yeah? Instead of, well, if I view other people with compassion, other people with curiosity and understanding, and maybe give them the benefit of the doubt, then I can view myself in that same light. And then, well, maybe other people show me that same reciprocity of viewing me in the same light. But if they don't, I can understand okay, that's just a protective part. What they're seeing in me, maybe they like to project incompetence. Maybe they like to project all these nasty things. That's okay. That's probably just how they feel about themselves. And I don't say that from a condescending place, but that's coming from a projection. Like, we can only see in other people what we see in ourselves. So all the positive traits that you see in other people, all the traits that you like about other people, maybe it's their humor, maybe it's their style, maybe it's their discipline, their work ethic, their love for the gym and health, whatever it is. you see that and you resonate with that because you love that about yourself as well. It's something that you take pride in, maybe. But on the flip side, the things that you judge other people for, maybe it's their weight, maybe it's the way that they treat their partner, maybe it's their financial position, maybe it's the house that they live in, the car that they drive, whatever else it is, the things that you judge them for are the things that you are also self-conscious about. The things that you feel like you don't have dialed in as much as you'd like. So it's much easier to see it in other people. Like, it's very easy to criticize other people. Well, you're unorganized, you're late, you're this, you're that. Amazing. Where is that true for you as well? Because a lot of the time that criticism is birthed from a place of insecurity in ourselves. And it's much easier to project that to somebody else than at the mirror where it comes straight back. So the beautiful thing about this nice guy work and this whole inner process is recognizing that the conversations and the understanding and the love that we have for the parts of us, the people-pleasing part, the defensive part, the reactive part, the inner critic, like all these separate parts, is just merely a reflection of the relationship that we'll also have with the external world. Like the type of conversations that we have with these parts about understanding them, about reassuring them, about validating, about all these things are the exact same conversations that we often end up having with our wife and with our kids. And when we realize that everybody operates at some level from a point of safety and protection, then we can take things significantly less personally. Realize like, oh, it's not really about me. They've just had something happen in their life that they feel they need to protect themselves from right now. And I can either give them more of a reason to act that way by being a douchebag and being an arsehole and then escalating this, or I can recognize that that's just a protective part of them that maybe needs some reassurance or needs something right now that it didn't get in the past. And so I get to break that pattern. In life, we get to choose our story. We get to choose the story that we tell ourselves, which dictates our behaviors, which dictates our feelings and the way that we show up. And so if we get to choose that, why would you not choose that allows you to take things less personally, to show up in a way that you actually enjoy, rather than thinking that everyone's an asshole, everyone's out to get you, and you're just a victim and boo-hoo-hoo. Like, I don't think that it serves some people because it's easier to play the victim than it is to take ownership and do the work, but it doesn't positively serve anyone. So we get to choose. But one of the deepest work in addressing these protective parts and these nice guy behaviors is the reordering of the respect and the love and whose values matter. Because like I said before, the nice guy puts everybody else ahead of himself. And so he will do whatever anybody else wants him to make sure that he is still liked, he is still loved, he is still accepted, and he gets approved. Once you overcome those parts, you unblend from those parts, you get to a place of your love, your respect, your value being at the very tip top. Just quickly, mate, if you feel stuck in your marriage, if your marriage is not in the state that you want it to be, and you recognize that you need to change first, but you don't know where to start, I've created something for you. It's called the Husband Performance Score. 12 questions, it'll take you 3 to 4 minutes, and it'll show you exactly how you're showing up and contributing to the state of the marriage, exactly what you need to change and do about it in the form of a personalized profile and roadmap to get you from where you are closer to the man and the marriage that you want to have. The link is in the show notes, the Husband Performance Score. Now back to the episode. And no one else's competes with that. When you love yourself, when you respect yourself, when you value yourself more than anybody else, more than what anybody else can tell you, then being able to say no, being able to set a boundary, being able to make a decision to lead yourself in your marriage, being able to show up as that confident, authentic version of you that you know is in there becomes second nature. It's by definition authentic. Like it comes effortlessly because that's who you are. Right? Because as long as you are acting in alignment with who you are, with your values, you know that you can operate from a place of self-respect and say like, cool, I appreciate that's true for you, but that's not how I see things. That's amazing that you want to go and do that, but that's not for me. You can count me out. Thank you, but no thank you. Right? You can say thank you. You can set a boundary. You can do all these things that I definitely used to be so fucking afraid of. And I know a lot of nice guys are afraid of the rejection of what happens if they say no, what happens if they think I'm this or that. Like you can do all those things from a calm, grounded place because you lead with self-respect. Leading with self-respect doesn't mean that you disrespect other people. It doesn't mean that you're then automatically saying fuck you to everybody else and it's, it has to be you versus them. It's like, cool, man, I love that for you, but it's not for me. And if they want to still take that personally, that's for them. Right? That's where we get to this line of everything in life is a reflection and a projection. Their response, the way that people respond to us and things that we experience in life, we can see as a maybe reflection. Cool. Especially if I'm having an emotional reaction to this, what's here for me to own? Okay, I'm feeling a little bit unsure now. Cool. Maybe I'm not fully certain in myself right now. Maybe I was a little bit performative here. Maybe my delivery was a little bit off. Maybe my tone was a little bit sharp. Maybe I did misspeak. I did do something or say something that maybe didn't land or didn't come across the way that I intended. Cool. I can always get better. I can own that. But there comes a line where we can then say, okay, cool. I'm open to that. And I'm also open to the fact that this is a projection of what's going on inside that person. Now, that's not always an easy line to draw, but I feel the more that we are conscious of these, the more that we can see what's there for us to take and learn from and see what is not there for us. Because taking everything on board will just destroy you over time. Because you could absolutely nail the regulated nervous system. You could nail the calm voice. You could nail the delivery, the words, like the whole thing. And then you're dealing with an absolute narcissistic peasant who still wants to try and gaslight you and flip the story and like take things sideways and all the things. If you then try to then dig too deep into, well, that's all my fault, I need to own all of it, you'll drive yourself insane. So there's the line of like, okay, what can I learn from this? What's here because it's a reflection for me? And then which one is the projection of them? And the more that you get to exercise this, the more that you get to unblend from these parts and operate from that self-energy, that authentic energy, the more you can lean into that gut feeling, that intuition of knowing what that looks like, where that line is for you. Especially if you're in a relationship with someone who is difficult. I don't just mean a romantic relationship, but whether it's a business relationship or it's a sibling or maybe a parent or sibling in-law, anything like that. Knowing what you stand for and being able to hold that boundary, hold that self-respect, hold that standard. One of the hardest things, and I hope that I never have to get to this point, is when you have to get to a point of walking away from a marriage, from a relationship. And there are some times where you can change as much as you can change. You can grow. You can own all your shit, all your flaws. You can work on all your parts and your behaviors, and you can make all those changes. But if the other person isn't committed to the relationship. The other person doesn't want to see the changes. They're holding onto the lens that you are the problem and that it's all your fault, and they refuse to let go of that because it's easier for them to hold onto that lens, for them to maybe put that down and then realize like, oh shit, now I'm a pretty heavy contender for the state of the marriage, and that's going to require me to change. That's not an easy conversation to have or an easy process to do. But eventually you get to a point where I want more than this. I want better than this because it's my life and that's the standard that I want to live. But I feel like we can only get to that point once we have done that work, once we have owned all our shit, we have done that parts work, we have been consistent on everything. Like being real, think of how long you were repeating the patterns that got you into the state of the marriage that it's in. Was it a month, 6 months, 12 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And then you stay consistent for a couple of weeks. And then, oh, well, she hasn't changed yet. This is stupid. She's the bitch now. She's the, it's all her fault. Really, man? Like, I'm not that great at math, but as a percentage, work out what a couple of weeks is compared to whatever your first answer was of how long you were contributing to it. Like, as a percentage, it's probably not very high. So mathematically, it doesn't really even make sense to have seen a drastic change, despite it feeling like a big change for you. But you show up with that consistency. You get to a point of, okay, I know without a doubt, cross my heart, I can swear on my own life that I have done everything within my power. I have been consistent. I have given this time. I have given this grace. I have given this everything that I feel I could to change. And it wasn't enough. Having enough self-respect to then have that hard conversation would definitely not be easy. And that's one of the hardest things to do, whether it is your partner, whether it is your parents, whether it is maybe your kids even. When someone is acting in a way or is in your life that doesn't align with your standards, that doesn't align with the level of self-respect and the self-love that you have, it can be a hard conversation to draw that line. And I think the important thing is when drawing that line, when creating that boundary, setting that standard, however you want to phrase it, it's an invitation, right? That's all this is. It's an invitation. This is simply, cool, this is how I like to live my life. This is the standard that I hold in my life. This is whatever the thing is for you. I would love you to be a part of this. I would like this. But if you don't, I can respect that as well. But this is what's going to happen if that does. I'm going to walk away. This is that next step. But I think so many people torture themselves by sitting around kind of hoping or expecting. And especially if it comes from misguided expectations, it can really damage things. But I think the more that we get to unblend from these parts, nice guy parts or not, the more that we get to unblend from them, the more that we get to operate from that authentic self energy, the more that we get to ultimately trust ourselves. And when you get to that place of being able to make decisions from that energy, from that knowing, you need less and less quote unquote data. We need less and less like pros and cons lists and all these things, because there's a part of you that just knows, like that deep knowing. You're like, maybe it doesn't make sense. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. But this is just what I really feel needs to happen. And the more that we can trust that, I feel the better off we can be. But it's important to recognize that getting to that place actually requires a lot of that unblending, right? It requires being able to distinguish between, is this a protective part of me that's just trying to make me feel this way, trying to tell me this story because it's easier to stay. It's easier to just blame them. It's easier to do this thing versus that's a grounded, authentic self energy and making a decision from that place. Because that decision, it might feel right, but it may not always be easy. Where you're like, fuck, I feel like I need to do this. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe it's going to be uncomfortable, but that's what I feel like needs to happen. And you know it. That's where I had a mentor once and he called it the feather, the brick, the bus system. And so whether you believe in God, the universe, source, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. He would say, when something is not right for you, right, even if you don't believe in any of those things, you have I've never met anyone that doesn't believe in at least a personal intuition, right, a gut feeling, if you will. So there's times where you're like, I don't really know about this, like it doesn't really feel right, or I'm unsure, and maybe you ignore it. And that's the feather. You kind of like, it doesn't feel 100% right, but it's not enough to go and do something about it. So we ignore it, we brush it off, and then you get the brick. A brick is a little bit more in your face of like, hey man, this thing, you haven't made a decision on this thing. You know, your marriage is falling to shit. That's 3 months in a row now where your business is barely broken even. Like you're now 20% body fat, like whatever the fuck the thing is. Like it's a bit more in your face of like, hey motherfucker, wake up. And then you ignore it, and then you get hit by the bus, and that's your wife saying, I can't fucking do this anymore. That's, a huge debt comes in, a bill comes in for the business, or your tax bill comes in or the money that you don't have, or you see the doc and he's like, hey man, you're pushing on diabetes or some other health issue, cardiac arrest, you have to go into hospital. Something that you can't fucking ignore. And that's when most people change, if they're going to change at all, when they get hit by that bus. But every single time you got hit by that bus, I can just about guarantee that if you go back in time, if you really think about it, you could probably trace it back to, well, yep, there was the brick. There was the sign that I should have done something about it, but I kept ignoring it, kicking it down the road. And you know what? I actually had that feeling that I should have done something even about, a month or 2 months before that. Things weren't adding up. This felt wrong, this, whatever it is. And then so cool. Now, the ideal is that we don't have to get hit by so many buses in the future because it's expensive. It's painful, like expensive from both a sometimes financial standpoint, but a time perspective in how long you ignore it, then how long it takes to recover from the bus, and then how long it takes to change direction and all the things. And you're ultimately changing, if we look at a compass, you keep going down that road, you're changing degrees on like a 90-degree angle at the bus, as opposed, or if not a full fucking 180, versus when you feel the feather, well, it's maybe a couple of degrees just tinkering off the side. Right. So the goal, when we get to listen to that intuition, to that self a hell of a lot more, is to save time, save money, save energy, save pain, and learn faster. Listen to that piece. But the point I make is if you can't distinguish, I should say, between self energy and the part, well, the part's probably going to keep you in the same cycle. Right. I remember people used to say like, oh, listen to your feelings. And I was like, that's such a stupid fucking statement, because most people don't have what they want. Most people don't really like the situation they're in some capacity. So listening to their feelings probably got them there. And I remember it was like New Year's Day and I was on the beach, and for whatever reason, there was just, or maybe they just stood out to me for some reason. There was an abnormal amount of like fucking obese people on this beach. And I was looking around thinking like, wow, like, do you not look at yourself in the mirror? And then that thing popped into my head like, oh, just go with your gut or just listen to your feelings. I'm like, when you're first starting out making a change, you should probably not listen to your fucking feelings, because listening to them got you into this position in the first place. So it's like this interesting cycle of, okay, at first you don't want to listen to your feelings because they're the ones that led you astray in the beginning. Because if a fat person listened to their feelings about what they should eat and how much they should move, they would probably stay fat. So they need to go against the feelings of comfort and food to go a little bit hungrier and start moving more and be discomfort and ignore some of those feelings. And then you eventually get to a point where maybe your identity upgrades. You can listen to your intuition because it's actually coming from yourself, your higher self, like whatever that phrasing feels right for you, not from that protective part that got you in the first place. And I say that to highlight the importance of sequence and timing, because advice, especially generic advice, is not always helpful. The timing and the nuance to it is. In the same way that, you might follow some parenting pages like I do on social media, and some people are saying like, oh, you need to do this with your kids. And, if they're if they're just crying, then some people say, just let them cry, just don't give them any attention. But others like, no, you have to pick them up. You have to do this. And yes, like, fuck, what do? I don't want to give my kid trauma, but I don't want to give into their tantrums either. Understanding that at different ages, they go through different developmental stages. So that advice is only relevant to certain age groups. Like if your fucking 1-year-old is crying and you think, oh, they're just having a tantrum, just let them cry it out, and you walk away, well, they're going to have abandonment issues because they cried for fucking way too long because you didn't attend to them because they were a fucking baby. Versus if it's maybe a 4 or 5-year-old having a cry, having a tantrum, cool, man, like I'm not going to leave your side, but I'm not going to cave into it. Very different. So context and timing matters. So now we've gone on a couple of different side tangents, but I want to share this because for a lot of people, a lot of the men that I work with, the marriage is the pain point, right? That's where the nice guy tendencies, the reactivity, the defensiveness, like all these things, that's where they're most prevalent. That's where they cause the most pain. And the marriages that last, that are happy, that are successful, that both people love being in, the fundamental, like, experience, the through line of all those marriages, both people feel like they can be 100% themselves with their partner. That they love each other, that they love themselves, and that they can be themselves. Because as a nice guy, you're not really being yourself. You're running through the filter, consciously or not, of who do they need me to be, what's going to make them happy, what's not going to escalate things or make things worse. Like all these running through these filters, which over time is fucking exhausting, but it also masks from the real you. So of course they don't know who you really are, of like how you really feel, what you really think, what you really like. If it's all filtered through, well, whatever you want, up to you, I don't mind. Like just trying to give everybody else what they need. Because when we get to that place, we can give, we can do things because we just like to see other people happy, and like that makes us happy in turn. But again, there's a difference between like, you know what? My gift in this is seeing you enjoy this the most, right? It's like when you give your kid a gift on Christmas, right? You don't give your kid a gift and say like, did I do good? Like, do you have a gift for me? Right? It seems stupid. Yet that's how so many people do these nice gestures for their partner and for other people. It's like, here, I made you some dinner. Are we going to have sex later? Here, I cleaned the house. Are we going to have sex later? Here, I did this thing. Are you going to tell me I'm a good boy? Are you going to get off my back? Like, what's the reward that I get from this? As opposed to, again, the kid on Christmas, you give them the gift, and your gift is seeing them light up, seeing them happy, seeing them unwrap it, seeing them play with it, seeing them have the time of their life. Like, that is the gift. So even though you're still giving the gift, I hope you can feel that fundamental difference in the energy of what am I going to get in return versus fuck, I love seeing you so happy. Like, truly. Because when you can do it, like, you can give without expectation, not just to your kids, but to your wife and to other people. And because it comes from a place of love, like, as corny as this sounds, it comes from a place of love because you love yourself so much that you don't need their love for you to feel okay. You don't need them to tell you you're good, that you did a good job, that you're worthy, that you're loved, that you're all these things for you to feel okay, because you do it for yourself. And you have so much of that love and that respect for yourself, and it overflows in generosity and gratitude versus coming from the scarce, empty cup of, please, can I get a little bit of love? Can I get a little bit of a pat on the back? Can you just tell me that I'm okay? Right? It feels weak. And now I'm going to contradict myself for a second here, because it is, yes, still very important for the appreciation, the acknowledgement of our partners. Like, that goes a hell of a long way. But don't ever let that be the main source. That's the cherry on top. So the marriage that you want starts with you being the man that you know you can be. Without sounding super cliche. Actually, no, fuck that. I'm going to rephrase that. You being the man that you are. Not that you are right now, but the man that you could be. The authentic version of you. Whatever that is like. And I know that's fucking scary. Because maybe there's a part of you that says, like, what if I make all these changes and it doesn't save the marriage? What if it makes things worse? What if she doesn't love that version of me? Well, my friend, you can either live the rest of your life as a performance and try to be who you think your wife wants you to be, which realistically, you're probably been doing that to some extent, and it got you here. Or you can take that bet, take that risk, and become the most authentic version of you, and maybe risk your marriage not keeping up, and that's not the man that the marriage needs. Or your marriage grows with you, and it becomes better than you could ever even conceive, better than you ever fucking imagined. Because of course, how could you imagine something so amazing if you weren't that amazing yourself? Like, our marriage is an extension of us. But on the other side, okay, say it doesn't work out for your marriage. Maybe that wasn't meant for you anyway. Maybe there's something better coming up. Not to say that there's anything wrong with your partner right now, but I believe everything in our life happens for a reason. And so either we get to work on ourselves and improve the marriage, and we get to model to our kids what a healthy marriage looks like, what people working together and on ourselves looks like. But also what walking away with dignity and still respect for each other can look like as well, if it's not right. I know that's a fear for a lot of people of, like, oh, what if I fuck my kids up because they have split homes and all these things? Well, it's not always much healthier. You stay together for a lot of people either. The hard question I get all my guys to answer not all my guys, the guys that have been in a similar situation, I say, what would you get your kid to do? If your son or your daughter was in this relationship right now and you're sitting there 70, 80 years old, what would you be saying to them? Or importantly, if they're in the exact same relationship that you're in, how would you feel knowing that you modeled it to them? You set the example of this is what a relationship looks like. So they went and sought this out because you modeled it to them. If you feel proud, fuck yeah, I love that. Keep doing it. If not, well, maybe there's your sign. So no real takeaways from today. Actually, no. I hope you found some takeaways from today. I hope something from this stood out. Maybe it reframed the way that you've been thinking about something. Maybe it took you a little bit deeper as to what actually needs to change when it comes to some of these nice guy parts. Maybe it just gave you a permission slip to be your fucking self, to unblend from some of those protective parts, and to actually maybe, instead of operating from a place of fear and anxiety. Operate from a place of optimism and excitement for that future of what that marriage could be like, what your life could be like, and how free you would feel when you operate as the most authentic version of yourself. The real fucking version of you. Not the people pleaser, not the protective parts, the real fucking you. Because I know everyone that truly loves you in life has been waiting for that version of you. Don't be sorry. Be better. Bye.